So they say hindsight is 20/20. And if anybody in the media sees out of his hind end, it's Joe Scarborough. He was once a Republican in Congress, but will be remembered as the worst thing to happen to Florida since Ron Jeremy toured the villages. I know. But what I like most about Scarborough is his honesty. Well, that and his dime slot hillbilly eyes. Here he is on April Fool's Day, no less, talking about what a disaster Joe Biden was as president.
We always look back in retrospect and think things were a certain way, just because it's the way the media at the time defined it. You know, I remember after Biden's shockingly bad presidential debate, that's when, like, the history books were starting, you know, you could just see that was going to be the reason why he was pushed out of the race and he was doing bad.
Oh, you could just see that was going to be the reason, because there were no reasons before the debate.
No.
Sorry, Joe. Saying the debate was like a shocking reason for Biden's downfall is like saying, oh, I didn't know Hunter Biden was a problem until I saw his artwork. And what a convenient opinion to suddenly come up with that now that Biden is long gone. But that's what you get when the media is interviewing the media without addressing the diseased and dying elephant in the room, the media. Scarborough is talking with the authors of a new book that details just how Biden really was, how bad he was. And Scarborough acts as if he knew it the whole time. But it wasn't that long ago when Scarborough said this about the commander in coma.
He's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically.
Cogent? I think he meant pungent. Keep yakking, you grifter.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
Of course it wasn't the truth, you bozo. Which is why you said it. This guy has always been more full of than a cage full of chimps mainlining Metamucil. Here he is in 2023 with the same line of caca del Toro about Biden's supernaturally keen focus. You know, I bet it'll wake you up when you're asleep at 8:30 at night.
He'll wake me up when I'm asleep at 8:30 at night, because Meek and I, of course, wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and I'll just go, hello, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And about an hour later, he will aggressively and very effectively give me point by point by point about how my op-ed was flawed.
First of all, what kind of loser has to get up at 4:30 in the morning? So he relays an anecdote about Biden calling him up to talk politics. He left out the part that Biden thought he was talking to Amelia Earhart. But does anybody really believe that story, seriously? Biden didn't have the mental capability to dissect his own pork chop for dinner, let alone dissect a Joe Scarborough op-ed. He couldn't debate a speak and spell, which is why they told him the speak and spell was the nuclear football. And Scarborough actually wanted us to believe Joe was still awake at 8:30 at night. By then, he was already in his cryogenic chamber, dreaming about his uncle getting eaten by cannibals, overcoming oil cancer, and Corn Pop's love for hairy legs. Remember this stinky pile of crap from February 2024 after special counsel Robert Hur declined to pursue criminal charges against Biden? Hur said Biden willfully possessed classified docs, but it was okay because he's an old man with a bad memory. Well, the Dems exploded with rage at this obvious truth, and this hack led the attack.
There's so many people that immediately heard these random conclusions, irrelevant conclusions, who, first of all, wondered why in the world he would put that in a report, his neurological assessment of Joe Biden. Why in the world would the Justice Department allow that dicta to be in there? It's gratuitous. Well, and he knows it's gratuitous, and it was bad faith.
Of course, it was also true. If Scarborough got within 200 feet of a polygraph machine, it would burst into flames. But Scarborough couldn't afford to be honest with his audience because the Dems had a big, bad orange man breathing down their necks. So he had to deny Biden's physical and mental decline, which the whole world saw every day. He had to blurt out hostile, fidgety or they wouldn't give him the pills that keep him from turning into a werewolf. His entire grift was so that he could be the last person MSNBC lays off. I mean, it's not like his night job as a butthead impersonator would cover his monthly nut. But now in 2025, when he thinks it's safe, Scarborough has seen the light.
I remember talking to a reporter 3 days before the before the debate, and we were talking about how Biden was starting to fall behind in Minnesota, that Virginia was getting really tight, uncomfortably tight, and Democrats were afraid Biden would even lose New Hampshire. We both said to each other, the funny thing is, like, no matter how Biden does in this debate, people are going to blame the debate for the way the polls are already breaking before the debate.
Wait, you mean the funny thing is that no matter how Biden does in the debate, he's going to be blamed for the polls? No, the funny thing is, if you had just told the truth when it mattered, maybe the Dems would have had time to find a candidate who could actually win an election. Hell, Jimmy Carter was still around at that point. He would have done a better job at that debate. But he didn't, so now you have to lie about your lies. But hey, it could always be worse. Morning Joe could be on a network people watch. All right. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He gives fans something to remember. A terrible experience. Writer and comedian Joe DeVito. Every time I pee, I think of his last name. Actor and comedian Steve Byrne. She's so hot, she fogs her own glasses. Host of Kennedy Saves the World podcast, Kennedy. And he's the reason for cathedral ceilings. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA World Champion Tyrus. Joe, I don't have goals. But I'm going to make it my goal that we never forget what Joe Scarborough said. Anytime he says something, I'm playing those videos over and over. Because how can he switch like this and expect everybody is as dumb as his wife?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, no, she hired him.
Yes.
Yeah, right? I mean, unless his memory's worse than Joe Biden's, he has to know. The way he said, the shock at the debate, the only shock at the debate was when they hit Biden with the defibrillators before they threw him out in front. Everything he said is now, it's incomprehensible that this is the best version. What does the worst version of Joe Biden look like? Is it just a stain on a carpet or a head floating in a jar? It was all, and the anger with which he said it made it incredible. You know, Joe Biden was not calling anyone at 8:30.
No.
He's not calling anyone at 8:30 a.m. all of his calls went forwarded directly to 911 if they're coming from Joe Biden.
Yes. Even the visiting angels, turned off their phones.
Yeah, they sent him the voicemail. So I feel bad in a way for some Democrats. Because I don't feel bad for us, because we called this right from the beginning. We knew it was ridiculous. We knew Joe Biden was rotting and declining, right? This sudden decline. Mount Everest doesn't have a sudden decline as this short. And we knew it was garbage, but I feel bad for the people who watch that and now have to say, oh, did we do the same thing he did, where we had to deny what our eyes and ears were telling us because we didn't want to believe it. And they have to live with that. We can gloat.
Yeah, Steve, you're watching this and you're watching the media interview the media, and neither of them admits that they were the problem, that they did the cover-up.
No, well, first off, look, speaking of the media, I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here. It's so great to see you guys. And you guys...
Cheap applause, Steve.
Cheap applause. Look, I tell you, my good friend Roy Wood Jr. has a show called Have I Got News? And I thought, I'll get on that. I'm on Gutfeld before his show. And it's like, I realized, I'm on Gutfeld before his show because I'm not black enough. The three hosts are black. Roy's black. The co-host, Amber Ruffins, is black. Even the white guy's named Michael Ian Black. Now... But even when my wife and I were watching the debate, and when Biden came walking out, when he was walking, I was like, oh, God. And every time that guy walks, you ever see Star Wars: The Phantom Menace when C-3PO's not fully fixed, and he's kind of like met on a wire, he's kind of walking. But even that farewell speech, I watched his farewell speech, and I was like, this speech is sad, it's kind of morose, but what I like best about his farewell speech was open casket.
Yes. It's
Too
true.
much heat? Too much heat?
I've never had a guest stand up all the time.
You get merch. You guys get merch.
Do I beat him up now for stealing the book?
At cost.
All right, Kennedy. You gotta figure that Morning Joe has got to be a weird place to work right now, because not only were they humiliated.
Are you asking me for intel? Because I've got it. Go ahead.
No, tell me.
Continue.
You know
the
she
question.
does that research
Continue with
thing.
your question. I was researching.
No, tell me what you know. Tell me what you know.
Sorry, I have to put my IFB in case our overlords have to tell me to stop talking, which is quite often. It's a miserable place to work. There is more tension among the hosts than is reported. They are on the wrong side of the executives, especially the new president, who was interim president for a while, but now she's like the permanent president. And they had to power up a 500 horsepower turbocharged ass-kissing machine just to keep their jobs because, like Joy Reid, they enjoyed a precipitous decline in their ratings the day after the election because they lied. They tried to ease their viewers' fears. They parroted Kamala's horrible comms team's internal polling, which was completely skewed. And I don't know who they were lying to. Were they lying to keep their jobs?
Yeah.
Were they lying to make Kamala feel better so she didn't completely implode on the campaign trail? Were they lying to Joe and Mika so they could have like a constant propaganda factory? But it is a miracle with, their lack of objectivity that they are still employed.
Yes, but also, Tyrus, it is about pride. Like they were wrong on everything, but they can't admit it because it would destroy themselves. They're too proudful. Is that a word? Prideful to admit they were wrong. Proudful. Proudful?
I felt proudful. I stopped coming with that. I think we all got it.
Yeah. Prideful.
Can I say this? I'm a member of the Proudful Boys. I forgot to say that.
Knew it.
Yeah, felt it. I think a couple things. First of all, he should change the name of the show.
Yeah.
To Morning Wood.
Yeah.
Because he's a real he's a liar. He's an absolute liar. He's never spoke to the president. He never had. No one takes calls or calls him to discuss anything. And he lies so bad that he gets lost in his lies. Because when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. When you lie, you have a lot to remember. And he's not good at remembering, which is weird to me because based on the size of his forehead, he should be able to tell what I'm thinking. But how the hell do you have a receding hairline and a hairpiece? Like, get it together, bro. And then it's not pride, Greg, it's greed. They were doing this because the Democratic Party was cutting checks, which means he was leading the charge. And then they're like, hey, Joe, maybe don't help us so much because he was like, I just got off the phone with him and he's sharper than he's ever been. And they're like, whoa, we're not willing to go that far.
Yeah.
He's the president, ain't even allowed to be around sharp objects. Don't even use that word with him. So they were like, we're going to get speaking events. We're going to get this. We're going to get exclusive interviews. We're going to make a lot of money.
Yes.
So you can't even give him the respectful thing of like, no, it was about trying to see it through. No, they thought they could cash money. And then there was no money. So what did they do? They slid it over to Mar-a-Lago to try to see like, hey, if you could throw us some interviews, we'd be on your team. And the president said, yeah, we're good.
Yeah. All right, that's enough for now. Let's go on to the next block. Up next, Senator Spartacus strikes again.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.